Hey everybody. I did make a little mistake, so we're watching live and now watching the YouTube channel. I forgot to record locally. So this is a quick intro recap of what you missed and what we didn't record. So this is going to lead into the actual video. So announcements, our quarterly fundraiser is still the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Check out the link down below. If you can donate, please do. Also, my wife and I had the privilege of going to Walker Stalker Con in Atlanta this past weekend. It was amazing. I will be doing a review of it, so follow us and check that out. But one of the cool things that we're able to do for my buddy James over here, who couldn't make it, who had a newborn.
Yep.
That story is crazy. So James, what time did your wife go into labor and when did her water break?
So I've been teasing, not teasing, but I basically I knew my wife was first pregnant before the doctors knew. She did something weird, and I said, you're pregnant. I knew we were having a boy because she picked out. I told her it was a boy. I want to pick out the name. If it was a girl, she could pick out the name. She picked out the girl's name. I picked out the boy's name. She started giving me a hard time about it. So I got upset because in my heart I knew it was gonna be a boy. I started getting upset and little tiffs about the name when the baby was about 1 month. But after that, I said, watch the baby. The original Walking Dead premiere date was October 9th. And they changed it to October 23rd. I said, watch the baby. Watch you go into labor on October 23rd at 8:57 p.m. and have the baby the next day. And, my wife went a little bit over her due date. And, her mother had her early. So she went into labor early. So a big thing between her and her mom was she would have the baby early. Every time she said that, I would jokingly but also seriously say, you're not going to have that, but you're going to go into labor on October 23rd at 8:57 p.m.
Yep.
The day before, we were at a party, a housewarming party, and everybody, she's 10 months pregnant, and everybody's, felt bad for her, oh, when you having a baby? And she said, I don't know. And I said, she's going to go into labor tomorrow night, 3 minutes before the Walking Dead premiere. And so Sunday came,
Yep.
And what happened? Started having massive contractions.
Just like you predicted.
Just like I predicted. And if she wasn't such a fan of the show, we actually probably would have missed the premiere. But she was a trooper, and she watched the whole premiere. And at 10:05, she walked upstairs and then called down and said, I think my water broke. So 10:05 p.m., I was off by an hour and 8 minutes. Her water broke. We drove up to the hospital. I didn't see The Talking Dead. We always watch The Talking Dead after. Yeah. And then she had the baby the next day on the 24th, just as I predicted. So that's a pretty amazing story in itself, and I have bragging rights of calling it.
Yep. So Walker Stalker Con, first actor we wanted to go see was Lenny James, because in the previous episode I had asked James actually who his favorite actors were, who his favorite characters, and Morgan Lenny James was his number one. So I was like, all right, we had to get an autograph for him. So we waited in line. We got up to him and we told Lenny that story of how James couldn't be here because he just had a newborn, and how he called it, and how he started labor right after the premiere. And after telling the story, he asked me, "Hey, does your cell phone, record video?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And I wasn't sure why he asked that, but he said, "Well, can you set up to record as like a selfie?" I was like, "Sure." And he's like, "All right, I'll send him a little personal message." So I was blown away. I was like, "You gotta be kidding me!" I thought I was just gonna autograph for James, and Lenny James here took upon himself to do something, quite frankly, amazing. He's such a great guy that did something very personable, and it was awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and play that now for you. So I'm gonna get that queued up.
This is recording. Yes. Hello, James. This is Lenny from The Walking Dead. I just wanted to say congratulations on the birth of your child. I'd also like to say well done for your wife for her fantastic timing and not letting letting the baby come out until the show was done. I hope it wasn't the show that induced the labour, but it might not be. I'm here with Jay and Kelsey, and they said that they just got this signed. Kind of authenticates it. Just wanted to say congratulations, matey. I don't know if it's your first child or your second child or whatever. It's your second child. I got 3 of them, so get ready for the wine. Get ready for the ride. Hopefully next time I'm in town I get to meet you. Until then, I hope this makes up for it. Speak to you later. Bye-bye.
So there it was again. Like I said, just congratulating James, and yeah, maybe next time we go to Walker Stalker Con down in Atlanta, James and his wife can make the trip down here and meet some of the actors.
Yes, and I hope to make it down there because unlike Jay, I don't get to go every other day to meet these actors. He goes to, they invite him over for dinner. And
right, they just keep texting me. I was like, I'm sorry.
Brunch.
I have plans. I can't make it.
Walks down the street.
I'm already grabbing drinks with Norman Reedus over here.
Oh, God.
I got canceled. It's a burden. It really is a burden.
They got Jay's the godfather of a couple of their kids. It's ridiculous.
But it was really cool that he did that. And
it was.
All the actors there were very nice. But we want to recap that for you. I believe everything else we caught up. I was able to catch the recording again locally. So you shouldn't have missed anything else. But without further ado, let's continue on the episode.
Not being able to differentiate the walkers and people. And that was important because every time the kingdom warriors or kingdom fighters or Morgan made kills, Carol saw a human being instead of a walker. And it's slowly turning her into somebody who does not want to kill. She's slowly turning into this, this I'm tired of. It's basically an extension of who she was becoming toward the end of season 6. Now she's having a hard time telling the difference between walkers and humans. Now, it could have been delusional because she was bleeding out, but they wouldn't have put. I think that was specifically placed in there. I think Carol is so far gone from the warrior Carol that she was, that you're going to start to see her take on possibly a Michonne type role in the comic, and basically say she's had enough with killing and she's just done.
Yeah, I think she reached the peak almost of like being a killing machine, and then it kind of scared her.
Yeah,
and now she just kind of fell, farther down now, almost to the fragile state she was before. But
even more so because now she's looking at walkers as people as well. So before, who cares about a walker? You kill him with no second thought. But now she's kind of looking at it and saying, these look like people. And that's like I said, that kind of goes back to the comic version of Michonne. And this is important. And her relationship with Ezekiel, they're slowly building that up. I thought that was great. I think Ezekiel, when Carol and Ezekiel first met, Ezekiel, was playing this facade that he's a king, and Carol's playing her, her pretend character of being this ditzy housewife who doesn't know anything. And at the end of the day, King Ezekiel's an actor, and he can see that. And unlike when Morgan first met Carol, and the residents of Alexandria, King Ezekiel actually can see through this make believe character that Carol made for herself, because he himself is acting. So that's important. And it's just, go ahead.
What do you say? You can't bullshit a bullshitter?
Yeah. Yep. You can't bullshit a bullshitter. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of biblical things in this episode. A lot of the writing on the wall. Mm-hmm. Somebody at work asked, what's the point of the writing on the wall? So you saw let the North Star guide you, and let it, whatever. And underneath it was the initials KE for King Ezekiel. So every time you saw like a saying, it was written by King Ezekiel himself, supposedly. The songs that were sang on the show were written by King Ezekiel, and they basically had a lot of meaning to them in what King Ezekiel was saying to Carol. Like, hey, you know, just saying, don't think twice. It's all right. You know, basically just go with it.
And to touch on that, even the first episode had a lot of biblical, I guess,
yes,
points to that with Rick and his son there.
Yep.
With Abraham.
Yep.
You know, I'm not a big Bible theology, I guess, student or anything like that, but that was brought up at Walker Stalker Con, and they asked Nicotero as far as, like, was that purposeful? You know, were they trying to make that biblical? And they definitely were. You know, just this kind of tie into that and how we see things.
Yeah, and it's also tying into the character that Carol was becoming. Mm-hmm. You know, they didn't just give her the rosaries for no reason. You know, the show is trying to show you a biblical side to it, because these are still people, and they still have their beliefs from before when the plague happened. And now you're starting to see more faith trying to come out here. You know, people are starting to go back to faith and lean on it a little bit. And I think that's what Nicotero is trying to show that.
Where there's no media, there's no internet, there's no distractions from TV. I mean, what else are you gonna fall on? You know, there's no basketball games or anything like that. There's no Cubs winning the World Series.
Oh shit, that was a great Game 7.
That was amazing. And also, you know, it's almost like the start of new history. You know, this can be the new Testament per se. You know, how do we overcome this? You know, even the zombie is a biblical proportion. You know, this isn't just a minor sickness. This is the entire world has been wiped out in this plague. You know, this could be a new start for another chapter in the Bible.
It's the extinction level event that the humans are going through at that moment in time. And back in season 3, when Milton said to Herschel, you know, we have to start recording this stuff. I mean, those people who watched season 3 and that it was called Arrow on the Doorstep, the governor and Rick were supposed to meet in this shed, and Milton and Herschel outside, and he says, somebody has to record this. This is our history. And this is just showing more characters building upon this history, making history, and you know, with the trading between the different civilizations, with Negan's saviors, you know, basically being the big bad guy. You know, it's just another form of people writing their own history. And this episode showed that a lot with King Ezekiel. He said it. I was basically a zookeeper, and I took care of this tiger. And hey, people saw me as being this big badass because they assumed I, you know, wrestled the tiger, and that wasn't the case. But I'm going to go with it. And, like I said, and look at what happened. So, and the same thing with Carol, you know, and people see her as this housewife, and they lean on her in that sense. So. It's really, again, they're trying to dig deeper into these characters, and it's a bottle episode. It's a little bit slow, but I appreciate them, because now when the action-packed episodes happen, or we were to lose one of these characters, we kind of have a relationship with them and a connection with them, and we can actually say, hey, look, you know, he was a great character, instead of just killing off, you know, some bum that nobody cares about. You know.
One viewer says they love the Tiger story.
Tiger story was excellent. I love it too. I think that's great. But here goes another tidbit for that viewer. You notice that he was a zookeeper before this all happened. Carol was an abused housewife before this all happened. Rick was a sheriff before this all happened. Negan has a backstory before it all happened. Michonne was an artist. You know, she wasn't a samurai warrior. You know, she was an artist before it all happened. Daryl was a redneck. He still has that in him, but he was heartless. You know, he was like his brother. You know, so all these characters were different people than they are now. All of them are taking on new roles. So King Ezekiel basically said, I became this fictitious character and went with it. But all of them have. Every single one of these characters have become something else. Look at Glenn. He was a pizza boy. Maggie was a farmer's daughter.
Yeah.
They're all taking on these different personas because the world changed. So King Ezekiel saying, I was a zookeeper and the tiger was dying and I nursed it back to health, and I had to go back for him when the shit hit the fan. He took on this other alternate persona that I guess you have to take on to survive, and you'll see that more and more as the series goes on, when we learn about these backstories of these people, that they have to become something that they weren't before in order to survive.
And it's also like, what's driving it? Is it like the inner drive, or is it the people around you that are like necessitating it? Like for King Ezekiel, when all of a sudden the stories come up about him wrestling the tiger, calling him king, he kind of falls into it. Rick, everyone starts to depend on him, expects him to make all the rules and all the regulations for the group. He's forced into that position. Carol needs to become a badass and save everybody.
Sure.
Sure. So is it not necessarily the person, or it's the people around him? Negan, probably the same thing. I'm sure he didn't think he was going to become this when it first happened, but
Exactly. And we won't spoil that either and tell you what he did before, but it's definitely not what he is now.
Yeah.
It's not even close. So and it just goes back to showing you that, hey, look, these people, like, either they've embodied this change, like King Ezekiel, and ran with it, and Carol too, to the extent, or they've become leaders, and either they're righteous leaders in our point of view, or they're the evil leaders, like we see Negan and the governor. So, but either way, they've basically changed who they were due to the disaster or the apocalypse.
So how do you think this episode compares to the comic book?
It's basically replacing Morgan, and Carol and Morgan are replacing Michonne.
Yeah.
And Jesus actually introduces Rick to King Ezekiel. So, I still think that there's time for Jesus to introduce Rick to King Ezekiel. I think that that's going to happen anyways. But I think with the development of Carol's character and her still being alive in the show, and Morgan's character and him still being alive, I think that this is a good way to extend those stories, and to kind of tie them into the relationship with King Ezekiel as well. Because, again, they got not separated, but they took a different path to get to Ezekiel. Mm-hmm. And now this is going to tie Rick and the group into their story with Ezekiel and introduce Ezekiel. So that's kind of good that they kind of expanded this meeting, but it's definitely different from the comics. Michonne actually has a closer relationship with Ezekiel. That's a little bit later. That's after they meet Ezekiel. Yep. But stay tuned for Carol's relationship with him, because he's definitely on the same character arc as Michonne in the comic book. And obviously Michonne and Rick are together, so we know Michonne won't have that type of relationship with Ezekiel either.
Yep, Michonne's filling the place of Andrea.
Yep.
Andrea obviously has died.
Thank God. It was horrible.
I love the actor. I mean, it's unfortunate, but just the story arc had to come to an end. I don't think they could have saved that necessarily.
No, I think they ruined the governor and Andrea's characters, in my opinion. Yeah. But I just didn't like I said, I didn't like Andrea or Laurie's characters. I didn't understand the point of them even being in this show after a while. Just sleep with everybody, screw everything up, and then die.
Yeah. One almost shoots Daryl in the head, then the other one drives a car into a ditch, and it's just like, I know that they can't be all strong, kick-ass females like Carol and Michonne, but it's just like, do they have to go on the opposite end? But we'll talk more about the previous seasons.
Yeah, we will. We'll do third.
Yeah, we don't want to segue
Thursdays.
Too much. Yeah. Here we go. Throwback Thursdays. So sticking to this episode, I'm excited to see a tiger because having a tiger in the zombie apocalypse, I mean, that's something that you don't want to see in a comic book.
Yes.
Or a graphic novel.
Yeah.
It's just so far out there that it's insane, and they definitely killed it. I wasn't sure how they're going to do that exactly because like we've been talking about, they don't necessarily follow the comic books word for word.
Nope.
Or people for people, so they could have went a different way, not even having a tiger. But they pulled it off. So we'll see how it performs out in the field. That'll be fun to see.
And also, we're going to see. We talked about it last week. The right-hand man syndrome, or the pairing of characters. So we see kind of King Ezekiel paired with Carol.
Yeah.
And now we see Morgan paired with a new apprentice in Benjamin. So Morgan has now become, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, Morgan has now become the teacher. And he is now teaching Benjamin. And Benjamin is going to have an interesting story as well, because he's a character in the comic too. But his story to Morgan was his father was one of 8 people that were killed in a fight. Could they have been killed by Negan and the Saviors, and King Ezekiel is hiding that from him? So you got to kind of think that, because obviously the Saviors obviously have a deal in place with the kingdom, just like they do Alexandria now, where they get half your shit or they will kill you. And and it's kind of weird that King Ezekiel is taken to this kid whose father died fighting for him. He was supposedly the best fighter King Ezekiel had. So
I could see him being one of the photographs up on the wall.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is probably why Negan picked Abraham. And this is also why the Savior said to Ezekiel after the skirmish, he said, hey, if you don't produce, they're going to pick the guy. They're going to pick, they're going to go with your stronger fighter. He's going to be selected, because Negan wants to eliminate the strongest member of your group. He wants to take away your general. He wants to do it. That's why he did it with Abraham. It seems like he did it with Benjamin's father. And now they're pointing to the biggest, toughest guy that goes with Ezekiel, and they say, hey, look, Negan's going to pick this guy if you don't give us our stuff next week. You do know that. So, Negan has, like Jay said, he's calculated, and there's a reason why he's picking the biggest, toughest guys to make an example out of.
What do you think? Was there anything else?
Alex? There are a couple of things. Well, I can't remember if the pigs were in the comics. I don't think the pigs were in there, were they? They might have been.
Not that I can think of.
No.
They're side shoe anyway.
I think that yeah.
So they let the pigs eat the gore.
Yep.
Now, are they thinking that the gore is going to make the people, the Savior, sick, or? I mean, they obviously did that on purpose, like a little middle finger to them. Yeah,
and I think that they have this. I think there's an ignorance with all of the characters where, they showed it in season 5 with Gareth and his group when they ate the tainted meat.
Yep.
I think all these characters have an ignorance that the zombie virus can be contracted by ingesting the food. So, they probably have this ideology of okay, we give these guys these pigs that have been eating walkers, they might get sick, they might get weakened, maybe we'll be free. So it's a thought, but obviously that's not how it works.
Yeah. I'm not expecting someone to start chewing on a zombie.
Yeah.
Be okay about it, but yeah.
They do cook it off, so it gets cooked off, and I think Gareth told us that in season 5. Hey, we cooked it. We should be fine, and at the end of the day, they were fine. So, again, this is just.
Were they? I mean.
We don't know. That's right.
Take a while, yeah.
Anyway, we don't. You're right. But I think, like I said, this is just ignorance. These people. This is a world Kirkman made this world as if there was no zombie movies ever made. Every other sci-fi monster out there, horror movie, monster, killer, existed except for zombies. So these people are seeing this basically for the first time. They don't know what the hell is going on. So everybody's trying to figure out what is causing this pandemic, and they're looking at different ways to either manipulate it as a weapon, or they're looking at different ways to cure it. And I think King Ezekiel and his crew are looking at it and saying, hey, man, maybe we can get away with one and just poison these people. But it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
No. Maybe just make the meat taste a little bad or something.
Yeah, this is spoiled. And it actually might, you know what, Jay? It actually might backfire on them. Maybe the meat does taste rotted.
Yeah.
Hey, you never know.
They get pissed off, like, what are you guys trying to do?
What are you doing to us? This meat tastes like shit.
Yeah.
You know? And this could be a way that Negan makes an example. We don't know. So, keep an eye on that. Again, this is a great episode. A lot of biblical things. Carol taking the forbidden fruits, apples and pomegranates. They're in the Bible a lot, especially apples with Eve taking the apple. The relationship, Adam and Eve type of relationship between Carol and King Ezekiel. It's a lot of different things, they're showing us, and it's just the start of this relationship. It's just another way that they're developing Carol's character, basically showing her coming off of this killer high that she's on, and putting, and it's opposite. They're putting Morgan back, and he even admitted it. They're turning Morgan back into a killer, and he said it. Eason and Akito both represented, not killing anything living. But Morgan said, "I'm not Eason. I'm fumbling and stumbling along. I'm not doing good at this." And he's pulled the gun a couple of times. He's ready to. He's got that taste of killing, and he's got it back. And so one character is going one way, and the other character is going the other. So
both of them don't feel like they want to kill anymore, though. So that's
a
bad situation to be in. When
bad situation.
And you have people like Negan's people. Which are not friendly people.
Not friendly. It's gonna get worse. And so next week's episode is called The Cell.
Yes.
This one was called The Well. And every episode they'll say the name of the episode in it, with the exception of last week. But every episode they usually will say the name of the episode. Next week it'll be The Cell. So we're gonna see Daryl and the Saviors, and we're gonna see what's going on with them. It looks like they're going to capture Daryl. Not going to. They capture him. It looks like they're going to show us what torture lies ahead for Daryl.
Yeah.
Dwight.
Yep. Yeah, so this should be a Savior-centric episode. So it would be interesting to see kind of like their home base, their people, how they operate. Because right now, knowing what we know of them, it's probably like hell. But you don't know, so let's see how it is, see how their the chain of command is, and see how their day-to-day lives are. Yeah,
and I watched an interview with Norman Reedus about this episode, and he said it's heartbreaking to see what they're going to do with Daryl. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to die, but I think they're going to torture the shit out of him. I think that he's in for, they're going to try to break him. And in a couple of the previews, Negan says to him, "You don't scare easily," and he gets off on breaking people. So he did it with Rick. Rick kept defiant. The way he treated Rick in the premiere was almost like somebody breaking down a dog.
Yeah.
He's going to do the same thing to Daryl in his own, psychotic way. So, and then Dwight, going to see his backstory, and then the Saviors.
Yep.
Should be really good, man. Can't wait for that.
We'll see how they break down Daryl. So I feel like he can be beaten and bruised and tortured and still kind of stick around.
Yeah, he looks beaten and bruised in the previews.
Yeah, I mean, he got shot.
Yeah.
So he looked pretty weak. And also, talk about the dogs. metaphor. If you notice, like when they threw him in the back of the truck, he looked like a wounded animal back there.
Well, the whole episode last week showed that they do treat people like dogs.
Yeah.
And if you looked at the episode last week, how Negan first got Rick, he dragged him to the RV like a dog, correct?
Yeah, like by the scruff, yeah.
And then he took the axe and he threw it on top of the RV and said, "Get my axe, so go fetch."
Yeah.
And then when Rick did get the axe and came back in, what did he say to him? "Attaboy, attaboy."
Mm-hmm.
All right. He dragged him out of the RV like a dog. And every time Negan looked at Rick, Rick had that look of defiance. And it was like he wanted to show Rick that he was the master. It's almost like a dog trainer would do. Not a good dog trainer like you see on TV, but one of those dog people that fight dogs. They bite the dogs.
So he bought Michael Vick's book there.
Yeah, he bought Michael Vick's book, not the Dog Whisperer. He bought Mike Vick's book. How to Make Your Dogs Fight and Kill by Mike Vick. But he did the same thing with Daryl, like Jay said. He threw him right in the back of the van like a dog. Daryl's crawling around the van like a dog. Mm-hmm. So we're going to see how he treats him. I think Negan has this obsession with treating people as if they're dogs. And if you looked at the previews, he's got human beings on chains and zombies on chains. So
yeah, it's almost like they had like an obstacle course or something like that in there, where it's almost like a game show. Like you can see kind of Dwight's reaction to it, where he didn't seem too fond of it.
No, he didn't.
I think he's starting to think like, what the hell is going on? What am I doing here?
And if in the comic books, what happens with Dwight. So we're not going to give you a spoiler on that one. We're going to let you kind of starting to see that Dwight is like, what the hell, just by the previews.
I mean, so we know that Dwight took Daryl's bike. And he was there with his girlfriend.
Yep.
And we know that he ended up back in the hands of Negan.
Yep.
And somewhere between then and now, half his face is melted.
And that's a very yeah.
So you might find out why, and maybe he'll find out like where his girlfriend is and what happened to her. Yeah, because she is not by his side right now.
Not by his side at all, and that's a very big part of Negan's character. And like I said, you thought he was bad before. I think that was the physical part of him that we were introduced to, and coming up will definitely be the mental part, the sociopath part of him. That's just he's one of those guys that he'll beat you with his mind. He'll beat you in a chess game and he'll beat you down with a bat. He's dangerous and he's very, very calculating, as Jay said in the beginning. I like that. I'm gonna use that all tomorrow at work. But he's a super villain. This is going to be an exciting season, and I think it's going to stretch into next season. There's no way, I don't see how they're going to fit all of Negan versus Rick into one season. There's no way. I think this is going to play out for a couple of seasons because there's no way they can fit all that stuff into 16 episodes. There's no way.
Yeah.
None at all. None at all.
Now there is looking at IMDb here, there is some hints as a few more episodes coming up.
Okay.
And you can piece some time into the comic books. But there is an interesting one, episode 6. Mm-hmm. It says Tara and Heath are running into serious trouble. A mysterious new group is introduced, and the screenshot looks to be a herd of walkers. So without spoiling too much, James, do you know who this mysterious new group could be?
If they introduce this group now, it's going to basically throw a wrench in this whole thing. It's going to show the comic book readers that they are trying to do something big, because this group that they want to introduce, if it's related to the herd of walkers in the picture, they can be actually more dangerous than the saviors. And they are a thorn in Rick's and Alexandria's side, as well as Negan and anybody else, because they without spoiling it, they're a massive threat. And if they are a threat with Negan and the Saviors, that's going to be really interesting, because
Because that'd be different. Because this is pretty soon.
Yeah, this is really soon.
Yeah.
Really, it's too soon.
That's why I'm speculating. That's like part of me is saying it's way too soon for this.
It's way too soon.
We just figured out Negan, this new group. I don't know if we want to introduce a potential third, party over here with their own self-interest.
The only thing I could think of what they're doing is the same thing they did with the Saviors, Jay. I mean, the Wolves were facing Alexandria, and they kind of slowly started to introduce the Saviors. You understand? Yeah. Okay, so that
like and the same breadcrumbs. It isn't like, all right, well, here's their story, and all right, begin new story. It's kind of like, all right, three. But I still like to see. It's not. I feel like it's just a little bit too soon.
Me too. I agree.
Like we're still trying to figure out their psyche, and all of a sudden you bring in another. But hey, that's speculation. I could be completely way off. I'm going off of probably what someone else wrote about this one episode. 2 sentences and a screenshot, which might not even be from that episode.
It could be. It could be a preview, though.
Yep.
It could be a preview.
Because they're out there on their own still. Tara doesn't know about her girlfriend being dead, or
doesn't know about Glenn or Abraham. He doesn't know about anybody.
Yeah, they think. Right, they took off before they found out that Carol and Maggie were captured, right?
Yes, they took off just before they found out.
So they don't know about them. They think that Negan is dead. They think that we won. We figured everything out. They're gonna come back home. Life's gonna be good. Trading's gonna be going on. That is not what's going on. So I'm curious to see how they roll up into this situation, finding out like, wait a second, we just killed 30 or so people, and that's barely scratching the surface. Who is this guy?
The surface. This guy
he killed,
is
God knows who. It has to be kind of mind blowing to them. It's not cool, but that's down the road. Next episode, inside of the Savior's home. To the Sanctuary is what they call it. Funny names too. Like they chose those on purpose. They're not, Hell's Demons or Death Destruction. It's the Saviors. He thinks he's saving people.
Yep. Sanctuary.
Come home with us. It's the Sanctuary. Yeah. Sanctuary for all, right?
Yep. Sanctuary.
Those who arrive, survive.
And that's another Easter egg.
Yep.
Sanctuary for all, and the sanctuary. And that's why what you said just 2 minutes ago about this new group could be a hint. Maybe it's just like, hey, look, when did Negan actually appear? Season 7. When did we see those stupid sanctuary notes about those who arrived survived? We saw in season 4.
And how many bats have we seen?
Oh God, at least 3. I could count them. So you're looking at it. Maybe they're just, it's just.
I could see that. Maybe not introduce them like, oh, we know who they are now, but just kind of like, hey, did you hear that?
Yeah. What was that?
Like that? Yeah. Like,
was
did
that
you say something?
Was that a low sounding sound from? What I'm saying? I don't want to give it away.
Yeah. But, maybe it's something like that. Just like a little like, huh? What was that? That's probably nothing. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's nothing. Oh, 8.5 or whatever. Oh, it was something. Great.
Yeah.
So we'll see. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But they have to get through this one. I mean, let's see how Daryl handles this. I mean.
Yeah. And then we'll just a brief. We'll probably talk about it next week. He's episode 4 coming up, but episode 4 is supposed to be an extended episode. And so if you look at episode 4, it's supposed to be 85 minutes. So we're gonna get a treat. And I think what AMC did was they wanted to, they switched the 2 episodes. So The Well was actually supposed to be episode 3. And they switched it to being episode 2 because they kind of wanted to connect episode 3 and 4 for a reason.
Yeah.
So I think that this is going to lead into, and it's going to be another comic book
moment.
Actually, they showed that in the season preview of Negan banging on Alexandria's gate. Yeah. But Negan still has to go back to Alexandria for his week offering. So his weekly offering. So when he's banging on the gate, that's significant. And that's going to be episode 4. So if you look at that and you say to yourself, Why did they, why is the cell? Because the cell actually was supposed to be episode 2, and now it's episode 3. So
I'm glad they did that. I mean,
me too.
we need a little pick me up after the first episode.
Yeah, that was depressing. That was a depressing episode. But I told you last week I like that. I like it. I want it to be sad. I want it to be depressing. I want people in therapy because that's what you have to do. This is a zombie show. That's what I want. I want terrible. I want the horrible. So. But I also, like I said, I also like the bottle episodes as well.
Yeah. One of the commenters there say the wolves were kind of lame.
They were. The wolves were the scab. What were they? The hunters.
Yeah.
The wolves were a combination. The hunters were Gareth's group, but the wolves were like a combination of the hunters and a new group. So, Gareth's group was Terminus, and then the wolves were the wolves. In the comic book, they were a combination of the hunters and something else, because they mashed them together and just split it up into 2 groups. So that I look at it as one continuous group, continuous threat to Rick. Groups that will do whatever it takes to survive. So they showed Terminus. They showed Terminus people going to their primitive instincts of eating people in the wild, and then they showed the wolves being completely primitive and basically running amok. But I agree. I think that both antagonists they should have drew that out a little bit longer, because the wolves could have made that really special because of how unpredictable they were, and they could have made Gareth. They could have made them even more dangerous than what they were. Gareth's group was horrible. They were weak. All they did was eat Bob's leg. They didn't do anything else. At least the wolves killed people.
Yeah.
Gareth's group. Oh.
What were they around for? Like 2 episodes? Like actually in it for like the season or mid-season finale, and then the mid-season premiere. And
then one other episode at the end where they ate Bob's leg, and then when Rick killed every single one that was left. So they
serve a purpose,
They did.
Like just I was going to ask this question there just at the WalkerCon, but I think we talked about it where they had Gareth and his team knelt down in front of him.
Just like Rick.
Similar to Rick's group, kneeling down in front of Negan, and they just killed him.
Yeah.
All right. Just, they didn't have weapons.
Nope.
Just hacked right into him brutally. I mean, they didn't just hack him once. No, Rick macheted him quite a few times until...
And they beat him to death. Sasha stabbed the guy 17 times in the neck. Abraham beat somebody with the butt of his rifle.
Yep.
Michonne did the same thing. Rick cut somebody up in front of a church altar. Like it was insane. So when we look at the saviors and what they did to Glenn and Abraham, Rick has done worse. He did worse.
They're definitely on that. They can definitely compare the two.
Yeah,
very comparable.
At least Negan is making something of it instead of saying, "Hey, look, we're gonna kill you." Negan is saying to Rick, "We're gonna kill a couple of you, and then you're gonna work for us." Negan's getting something out of it. Rick completely killed the freaking Terminus. It was no competition. We don't want anything from you. We're just gonna kill you.
Yep. No, all the 5 there. No, you're all dead. You don't want to kill one as an example. Nope. No
examples. We're just killing everybody.
Okay. Sorry.
Wolves, same thing. You guys aren't living. Rick didn't take one of them back, and Morgan tried to, and then that one died. So I kind of agree with the comment that they were kind of lame. They could have stretched it out a little bit, but if you look at it, they try to combine them and basically make it one antagonist for Rick and his group to face. But I think they could have split it up.
You can even throw in was that Joe's group there, the one that Daryl was attached with for
a
little bit.
Yeah, because all 3 groups basically were mashed together. In the comic book. Little Pig. I'm surprised that they didn't. We should do this in a throwback episode, but I'm surprised they didn't do the Little Pig, Let Me In. When they first came to Alexandria, and then Andrea shot him in the head. I'm surprised they didn't do that with the Hunters.
Yeah.
That would have been nice, but again, whatever.
We'll see. They've been known to not go, ABC. They'll go A, C, F, back to B. Just kind of jump around, tie it in, swap people out. I wonder how much fun Kirkman's having. I mean, this is almost like his second draft of the story. He wrote it down in the comic book. You can kind of see, all right, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. How can I switch it now? And it's different. Comic book storytelling is different than, obviously, television storytelling. But I wonder if he's actually liking that, knowing 20, comics down the line, shit, I wish I would have done this instead. Well, now I can in the show at least.
And he said that several times. He said he wishes he didn't kill Abraham. He didn't have Abraham die with an arrow through the head. He said it. He said that was a mistake. He said that he basically wishes that he could take back cutting off Rick's hand in the comic book. He hated doing that. He thought that the idea was great at first, but once he did it, he said, "Now this is stupid." You got this one hand guy beating everybody up, and he just said it was so stupid watching Rick and Tyrese fight, and Rick has one hand, and Tyrese is this mammoth of a man, and it's impossible. You can't, And then he looks at it and he says, he killed off Glenn. He's glad that he stuck with that, but he hates that he did that in a comic book, and he made Maggie's character have to endure that, so he couldn't get around it. He even said they really did not want to kill Glenn in the premiere, but Stephen Young said, "Don't take that moment away from my character." Yeah. They only wanted the single death, and then Glenn said, "Hey, don't take this moment away from me as an actor. Don't. This is my swan song." Yeah. And Robert Kirkman went back, but I think that Robert Kirkman is having a great time because he knows a lot of people read the comics, like me and you, and probably some of the viewers included, and he knows we expect certain things, so he's messing with us, and like I said, he's not only messing with us, but he's making us think. The comic book readers have to think about things. Like, I didn't expect Andrea to die so early. I didn't expect her character to be so terrible. I didn't expect Sasha to be such a big character. She wasn't in the comics. Nope. Who saw Daryl coming? He wasn't in the comics. Merle wasn't in the comics. I didn't think the governor was going to be so. I thought the governor's character was lame. He killed a lot of people, but he was kind of lame compared to what he was in the comic book. So he's really being crafty, and I think this is a remixed version of a comic book, almost like a second chance to do it right. And so far, except for the finale that we all hate, he's got it. I think he's doing it right. So like I said, the finale was a mistake, but that goes back to showing you that, hey, you guys think you know everything about the show because you read the comics. Well, let me be an asshole and throw a wrench into your game a little bit, because I'm the producer, I'm the creator of this thing, and you guys aren't going to dictate how my show is going to run. That's his attitude.
Yeah, this is my baby, not yours.
This is my baby, not yours. And I appreciate it. I like it, but I didn't like the finale. But I like the rest.
Well, so far season 7 has been great. Obviously, the premiere was insane, and this past one was good.
Yeah. I always, like I said before, I'm not just saying this because Lenny James gave me a shout out, but I absolutely love the Morgan, the Morgan themed episodes. The first episode, Days Gone By, Clear was one of my favorite episodes of all time.
Yeah.
The one with Eason, Here's Not Here. And then this one was a little bit watered down because you had Carol as well, but Morgan's episodes are always deep. So I appreciate them, and I'm glad we got to see the second episode instead of maybe 6, later down the road. So got it out the way.
How about the actor of Ezekiel, Kyrie Payton? I mean, awesome job.
He did a great job. Yeah. I thought he was excellent. I think he nailed it. I mean, comic book readers now, Glenn was Glenn. I gotta say Rick is Rick. Yep. I gotta say, Carl is Carl, somewhat.
Hey, they got lucky there. I mean,
they
when
did
you
get
choose
lucky.
a child actor, you don't know how they're going to become or what they're going to look like.
You don't know,
and yeah,
and that just shows the casting. The casting scouting.
Foresight,
yeah, because they looked and they had to pick a character that's not going to have a huge growth spurt. You probably got to go through medical records. You don't know what they have to do to
look
pick
at their parents, see how tall
look
they
at their
are.
parents, exactly. And then Michonne, they hit Michonne right on the head. I think that her character is exactly the same. Maggie's character is pretty much the same. Jesus's character is right on target, and now Ezekiel.
Yep.
Aaron. I mean, you got all these characters
and
that
also Negan. I mean that
Negan, yes.
Yeah.
And I think now for the comic book readers, we actually get voices behind everything and see how they're not just looking at a page, but seeing these comic book characters come to life and act.
So it's one thing Jeffrey Dean Morgan said is that they take probably more than just one take, but or two takes, but they take a clean take for AMC and they take a swearing take for the Blu-ray.
Yes.
Now I want to get the Blu-rays just to see how far he goes. In the comics, he is dirty.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to see if like some of those key phrases are actually on the Blu-ray now.
Tell you what, if this show was on HBO and they swore, our show would be 10 times more vulgar because I would I would be terrible. I'm a sailor. I have a sailor mouth. I don't care. But I'm kind of toning it down because the show was kind of toned down. I don't want to outdo the show in vulgarity. Yeah. So,
but in the comics, Negan, like every other word is F-bomb,
F. He has different variations of it. Yeah. He's my favorite character in the comic book. I mean, he surpassed him and Michonne are my favorite comic book characters. Mm-hmm. So I think even more so than Rick. So
I like Rick's character. Now, do you think the TV show Rick or even TV characters are influencing the comic book characters? Because obviously the comic book is influencing the TV show, but do you think the TV show now is influencing the comics? Like so and so is such a main force in the TV show, we have to make him a main force in the comics a little bit more too, or keep him around more.
Honestly, that is a knockdown question. That is a great question because, I mean, there is no simple answer to that.
Yeah, I think you could speculate.
Yeah, that's an incredible question because look at how popular Negan was in the comic. Kirkman said he wanted to kill Negan after 5 issues, and he got so popular that he kept him alive. And then Kirkman said that his character wasn't going to be alive for so long, but because of him being in the show, he said, now I kind of want to go back and I kind of want to dig deeper into Negan. I kind of want to dig deeper into this guy. So he didn't have Negan die in the comics when you thought he was going to die. And then when Negan was in the show, introduced in the show, he wanted to kill him again. He came out and said Negan won't be around for longer. So you know what happened? He became so big from this cliffhanger. They made a Negan special in the comics, and now they're exploring more of Negan in the comic book to where he is questioned who's the main character now, Negan or Rick. Yeah. So that's a great question. I think that the comic influences the show, obviously, but I think the show is starting to influence the comic. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a Daryl version in the comic. Why wouldn't they do that? Daryl is like we said before, Daryl is the biggest character in the show right now. Mm-hmm. So would it be a surprise if Daryl was somehow in the comic, out of nowhere? So
yeah, his likeness and everything. I mean, there's no base for it, so why not? I would rather have some legalities of it, get a sign off, whatever. But yeah,
Sasha, why not? Why not have Sasha in there? They could do a lot of different things. So again, that's a great question. I mean, we'll see. And I agree with you. I think that I agree. You have to wonder if the show is influencing the comic now because the show is such a big monster in itself. Man, it's just special.
Do you think they'll always kind of parallel each other, or do you think Kirkman's going to just one day we're just going to, to take a hard right and get the comic book away from the show?
That's another good question. Damn, Jay, you're on fire tonight.
Right. I had this all lined up. I wanted to talk to her, but I couldn't get to the mic over the weekend. So,
woo, look at this guy's on fire. So, Kirkman's original plan was to have 300 issues, is what I read somewhere. Actually, I think I read it in his when they had an interview with him about the season finale itself. And he said, the comic books, he wanted to do 300. But he has so much more material. He's beyond 300, so that went out the window. He does not anticipate Rick living forever in the comics. He just doesn't know when he can kill him because he's such an essential part of the comic. He's such an important piece. And then he said for the show, they've already gotten season 8. They've gotten season 8 approved, and they're working on getting season 9 approved. Kirkman said that this can go on for another 6 years after the finale. So you're looking at season 12. So right now in the comics, we're in issue 160. And in the show, we're around issue 101. Yeah. So if he took a hard right, he would have to take a hard right with the show. Because the show has to catch up.
Yeah.
But if he took a hard right with the comic, he would have to make the show surpass the comic. So he would have to make the popularity of the show become so great that now he has to focus all of his attention to the show and possibly, spin-offs, possibly backstories. But right now, if he is going to take a hard right, I think he would have to take it with the show. It would have to be somebody not signing, maybe Andrew Lincoln not re-signing, maybe Carl not re-signing. Maybe Carl looks like he's 35 in a couple of years. You can't have him as a kid.
Yeah, what was he, 17 now? The kid's
17,
tall.
Man,
I think he might be taller than me.
He's taller than me. But I think that the hard right, if he took a hard right, it would obviously be something that he did with Andrea, how he just killed her. He killed Dale. The way he killed Dale, the way he killed Andrea, both of those kills were because of they were off camera issues with both kills. So you never know, but he obviously would have to take a hard right with the show, not the comic. So, good question.
He's only 5'4". Okay. I'm not sure when that was updated.
He's not taller than me either. Okay, he's got a couple more inches before he got me. So,
but that could be out of date. I mean, God knows when teenagers.
No, we're gonna leave it at we're gonna leave it at 5'4". I don't want him to be tall. It's like 6 when I started watching the show. Think that he's taller than me, man. Come on.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was so funny because at the Walker Stalker Con they had a showing of the very first episode, and then here comes Chandler Riggs as like a little kid. Yeah. And it's like, holy shit. That was 7 years ago. He was 10 years old there.
7 years ago, man. That's such a milestone in my life, in The Walking Dead when it started. I mean, that's when I met my wife, right around that time. Right after the premiere, we started dating. We obviously, I met my wife. She was friends with you first, so I met you guys. But that's just a huge... And as it all comes full circle, my baby, my wife went into labor 8 minutes after the premiere was done.
Yep.
So it's just such a big part of big moments in my life, I guess you could say. So, seeing Chandler Riggs, who was 10 when we first saw him, and he's 17 now, it's just like, holy shit. Some of these actors, Beth was 30. She's 31 now. She was 28 playing a 16-year-old. So it was like, Andrew Lincoln is old. Like, no, I mean, he's older than what he would be in the show. I think he's almost 50, and so was Norman Reedus. So these guys, Michael Cutlass in his 50s. So obviously, goes back to your question, the hard right would have to come with the show, and only because of natural things or contract disputes or just things that out of a producer's control. So I could see that happening.
Yeah, the timing. I mean, comics, you can keep someone the same age for years. You
Okay.
know, show you can't really pause, you know, someone's aging process as much as we might like to try.
Yeah. Well, Cher did it. You know, she still looked the same. She's like, what is she, 87 now? And she
I don't
looks.
know. Yeah.
I don't know how old she is, but we're gonna say she's like 87. She does. She looks the same. She looked the same in the 50s as she does now. Cher probably was born in the 50s, but I'm just saying she looks magnificent. She looks exactly the same. So they can do that. They're probably doing that with Chandler Riggs. You know, they're probably preserving him just for the show. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Give him some hormones that stunt his growth.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Just for The Walking Dead, man. They paying them millions. You pay me millions, you can give me hormones too. I don't care. Preserve me.
Funny trivia. So one of the people asked about his hair, and he said he loves it. He said that before he joined, he had that long hair, and he was sad they had to cut it. So now they can grow it back out. He loves it. So that was pretty cool.
Did you find that out at the Walker Stalker convention?
Yeah. Yep.
You
That was
lucky
one of the
ass.
questions.
Of course.
Yeah. Hey, inside. Inside knowledge.
God.
So.
Thank God you got me that Lenny James shout out, because little tidbits and stuff like this is just twisting the knife. We said that, you know, but the Lenny James kind of gave me second life. So you could stab me all you want. I'm all right. I could take it. But without that Lenny James thing, man, there's only so much I could take. I was feeling it. I was wounded. I was hurt. My heart was hurt.
Hey, I do what I can. And I guess Cher is 70.
I was close. I said 87. I was off by only 17 years. Wow.
All right. Yeah.
Not bad. So Cher was born in 1946. Oh, God. Ooh. She doesn't look like it, though. You know, and that's going to be Chandler Riggs. And we're going to say in 2037 that he's going to still look like a teenager.
He's going to be playing Carl still.
He's going to be playing Carl.
Yep.
Season 50 of The Walking Dead. He's
Going to high school. Yep.
Yeah. Ralph Macchio. What was his name? Karate Kid. The guy, he was like 29 when he played the Karate Kid. So you never know.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I mean, how they can do special effects for a tiger. By then, they should probably do special effects for Chandler Riggs. It's just going like one of those bodysuits with all the little, balls on them and everything like that. Those CGI, what he looks like as a kid.
They definitely can do it, man. You know, technology is great these days. So,
Yeah.
Oh man. But man, looking forward to episode 3.
Yep, same here.
I would ask the viewers. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but we can do a throwback, maybe Throwback Thursday type of thing, maybe during the break, and we can go over the past episodes, so we're not always, drifting off into all this past stuff.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll do in between the mid-season break there. We'll every week, every couple weeks or something like that, we'll throw in a throwback to like probably half-season blocks.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff we can cover. Everything from Easter eggs to what we thought was going to happen, what didn't happen, comic book tie-ins.
Yeah.
What we liked, didn't like, so forth like that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of Easter eggs, and like I said, even just pay attention to some of the things that you see in the show at the beginning with the opening credits. Whenever they decide to take somebody off the show, when they do take somebody off the show, they do promote somebody into being a regular cast member. And if you look, they specifically put an event that has happened or will happen behind their name. So, like I said, Terrors is a boat that's crashed on a beach. So, that tells us that there's going to be a boat crash possibly in Terror's future. So, it's little things like that keep the show even more interesting. I mean, if you were able to see these Easter eggs, it'll make you appreciate the show a little bit more too. So just a little thing for me to the viewers, like that makes the show better, is when you can see little things that the producers are doing and say, hey, wait a second.
Yeah.
And it draws you in a little bit more. So it doesn't get stale. That's just my...
Just like Negan,
Yes.
the producers, everything is done for a reason.
Everything's done for a reason, man. Every single thing.
So let's see what the Saviors are like back in Sanctuary.
Can't wait.
A couple days now.
Days.
We'll post our when we can stream.
Yep.
Because hey, this is all passion projects. We do have full-time jobs, and one of us has a brand new baby.
Yeah, and a 10-year-old. So I mean, you get the best of both worlds. Between practices, oh my God! Between practices and diapers.
Hey, she's Chandler's age when he started the show.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna get her on one of these TV shows, man.
Right.
Get her on a TV show. Dad doesn't have to work anymore. God.
Maybe we could do like a flashback to like Sasha's childhood or Michonne's childhood or something like that. She can star in a little like Nickelodeon show.
Hey man, you're the one who keeps going to all these conventions. You could pitch that idea, right, and we could make some money, man. I'll give you a finder's fee. You keep going to these conventions without me. You pitch that idea, and then Sasha backstory. We'll put my daughter in there, and 7 years from now, when she's 17, we'll have millions and millions of dollars, and we'll be done. You know, we'll be all set. You know. I could retire, you could retire, but since you go into these conventions, you got to do something. You got to. The Lenny James thing was a start, but let's get on it. There's millions of dollars out there for us.
Right,
Jay.
we just gotta get it. We gotta push for it.
God, this guy goes to conventions every other day. Jesus Christ!
But in Charlotte, I should have drove up there.
Yeah. I'm going to a convention right after this show, James. Oh, the knife.
But hey, thanks for tuning in.
Yes.
We're going to keep updating our tech and the back end as much as possible.
Yes.
Like I said, this passion project is all funded by us, and all proceeds, all donations go straight towards charity. So we're not pocketing anything. We're doing this because we love the show, and we also like helping people out.
Yeah, we just like chatting too, man. So
yeah, right.
Yeah,
and we like each other.
Yeah.
Even though there's some jealousy every once in a while of people.
I'm the jealous one. I can admit it. I can be the man. I'm highly jealous that Jay goes to a convention every other hour. He doesn't. He takes a lunch break and goes and meets all the cast members. You people don't understand how much he does this to me. It's ridiculous.
Well, I'll be posting up a review of Walker Stalker and telling you who I met. And some more pictures. We got a bunch of autographs.
Nice.
It was awesome.
Stabbing that knife. Oh.
So tune in for that. If you like Dungeons and Dragons, we'll have another session this Saturday. That'll be starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So our next Walking Dead dissection show. We should try Monday. We'll figure out. I'll post it up there online. Let you guys know, give you guys a little heads up ahead of time. But
no problem.
Tell your friends, like, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Twitch, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, check our website, echo5studios.com. If you have any recommendations, let us know. All right? We're
definitely.
To suggestions.
Yeah, definitely. Criticism, suggestions, questions, anything you want. You want to try to stump me with the Walking Dead trivia and stuff like that, do it. Jay got me twice tonight, just with some great questions.
Yeah, I want to say those are like trivia questions. Those are like hypothetical, Let's see what we can pull out of your butt here. And
yeah, you can't. Those two were amazing.
Those are Kirkman questions right there.
Yeah, those are definitely Kirkman questions.
Or Gimple. Gimple might be able to answer those.
Not James questions. James was...
You can write a thesis paper on those questions.
Ken. Great show, man. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll come back to you, Jay. We'll discuss when we're gonna have the next show. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the episode this Sunday, buddy.
Definitely tune in.
All right, man. Have a good night, everybody.
See ya.